Namaskar and good evening, everyone. I, Rilanjana Talukdar Mohanta, on behalf of Intellectual Forum of Northeast, welcome everyone for today's session. Today's discussion on the topic, a role of women for vocal for local in context to Atmanirbhar Bharat, is being conducted by Intellectual Forum of Northeast, which is a thinking tank formed in the year 2016 to spotlight the pertinent issues concerning the northeastern region of India. Basically, Intellectual Forum of Northeast is a platform for debates, discussions, deliverance, and for a meaningful discourse, and also conducts socio-economic surveys and deals with various research works, and has also conducted several symposiums during its endeavor. Now, before we start off the session, I would like to inform that we would be running a live questionnaire session at the end of the discussions. Please share the questions in your comment box, and I request that the questions should be relevant to the topic. The speech deliverance of today's topic, role of women for vocal for local in context to Atmanirbhar Bharat, with due respect and support to our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, will be done by a very special guest, Padma Shri Patrika Mukhim ma'am. Now I request all our viewers to have a little bit of patience till our special guest joins in.
Hello. Hello.
Namaskar and welcome, ma'am.
Yeah. Sorry for all the gadget problems.
No issues, ma'am. And thank you, viewers, for your patience. And sorry for the inconvenience.
I'm so sorry. I must apologize to the viewers. Yeah.
And namaskar and heartiest welcome, ma'am. It is my pleasure to introduce Padma Shri Patrika Mukhim ma'am, who is an Indian social activist and a journalist of great repute. She is currently the editor of the Shillong Times, which is Meghalaya's oldest English language daily, and she is a columnist for the Telegraph and the Statesman. She is the recipient of multiple honors such as Sameli Devi Jain Award, One India Award, Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Industry Fellow Award, Upendranath Brahma Soldier Humanity Award, Shiva Prasad Barua National Award, Northeastern Excellence Award, and she was honored by the Government of India in the year 2000 with the 4th highest Indian Civilian Award, Padma Shri. Once again, heartiest welcome, ma'am. And now, ma'am, I request you to do the honors to take over the session forward on the topic, role of women for vocal for local in context to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Ma'am, please do the honors.
Can you guide me as to how this operates? Do I have to just speak on this theme?
Yes, you have to speak on this theme.
Yeah. Okay. So, this Atmanirbhar Bharat, although it's a Hindi word and many of us find it very difficult to understand all these Hindi terminologies, but we can grasp that it means self-reliance, and self-reliance especially for women entrepreneurs, for women farmers, for women weavers in the region, and for many other activities that are women related. So I think this is a good venture, but we all need some help initially, especially for startups. You know, there are a lot of women who can do work in fruit processing, because this is a region with a lot of fruit, and horticulture is a major activity here. This is the season, for instance, where you have so much of pineapples, but there is no processing, and so a lot of the pineapples are going to waste because there are not enough buyers. And it's the same with all other fruit as well. We don't have enough people to buy, and with COVID now, the buyers have reduced even more. So if you go to the market, you can see a lot of waste of these products. Now, what we need in the region really are these processing units, and then we need marketing facilities, marketing outlets, which have not really come up to this point. So even when you're talking of self-reliance, you do need some help, some push from the banking institutions. You need some hand-holding from NGOs that are experienced in enabling the marketing facilities. You need some help from the industries department of the state governments, and so all these put together will enable women to stand on their own feet. But the initial startup is the most difficult, and if we do not get sufficient support at the startup period, it becomes very difficult to sustain any activity. And I've seen this happening. I've seen startups crashing. I've seen even people dying of suicide because they couldn't manage, because somebody has not been there to help them. So we also need maybe a strong women-led entrepreneurial development group, because that is a group that women individually can fall back on. It will be a group that is teaching, enabling, and helping you, pull you up from any kind of probable disaster that you might face while attempting to be an entrepreneur, because not everyone is gifted with business acumen. Some are more gifted than others, especially those coming from business families. But for many, it would be the first time enterprise that they are starting. So I think what we need to be thinking now ahead is, how do we bring in the NGO sector, the entrepreneurs, the corporate sector also, because most of the products are sold online even today. Meghalaya produces the best turmeric in the world. It's called that Lakadong turmeric, and it is selling over Amazon, and it's fetching a good price. But that is just one enterprise. There are so many others that can be done. I know that women in Nagaland, in Manipur, are also extremely enterprising. So also in Assam, those who weave, those who produce the Muga silk and all. So what we need is more of an enabling environment, an environment that will allow these activities to flourish. Just now I was I had gone to see how women and those having small stores are suffering because of COVID. So in Meghalaya, we have a lot of day tourists coming in, and from Assam. When they go back, they always pick up vegetables. Today I went and found all those stalls abandoned. That was a very sad thing for me. I went there actually to do a story. So I asked, there was just one shop open. I said, who are you selling to now? They said, we are selling only to these people who are coming to graze their cattle, or somebody who's occasional passenger from here who's going through. But otherwise we have no sale of our products. And this is the time when there's a lot of agricultural products. I saw the farmers harvesting a lot of mooli, radish. So I asked them, I said, where will you be selling all this? And they said, we will send it straight to Assam. So Assam actually is a very good buyer of the Meghalaya products. But we also have to remember that perhaps there is no controlling of the price mechanism. So sometimes they sell at throwaway prices, just so they can sell their products, so that their products don't rot. We saw somebody who had loaded the full car with cauliflower, and they were looking so nice and fresh. So those also, I asked the price of one cauliflower, which may be only about half kilo. It was 60 rupees. But because it is nice and fresh and it has leaves with it, people are willing to buy. So how do we enable people not to short sell their products? That should be the aim of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I think we can have a question answer session.
Thank you, ma'am, for your speech. Actually, the female power, if it becomes really empowered, can make the nation self-reliant to a great extent. Today's women are really redesigning the world, and the empowerment and autonomy of women and their improvement in political, social, economic, and health status is highly important and very essential for the achievement of sustainable development too. Economic empowerment of women is the most viable solution to integrate women to the development goals of the nation and even Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I have few sets of questions for you, ma'am. Can I proceed ahead?
Yeah, please.
Thank you, ma'am. The first question is that the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat will give social, economic, political justice to every citizen or mainly to the woman, which is mentioned in our preamble of Indian Constitution. What do you say about that, ma'am?
See, we in India is a patriarchal society. Just because we inherited a constitution, a written constitution from the West, it doesn't mean that all those, those social discriminations have just vanished. We are working through most of them. We are trying to build, a generation of people, not just women, but people who can stand on their own feet, people who will rise above the caste and the class system. And but it's a very long journey. And just now you spoke about health of women. Recently, in Meghalaya, we saw that between April and July this year, there were 877 infants who had died and 61 mothers. So this infant mortality rate is very high across the region. If we do not control this, if we do not have strong, resilient, healthy women, how do we become Atmanirbhar? How do we become Atmanirbhar? The first thing is that I have to have good health to participate in economic activities. If I do not have good health, I will be spending half of my time going to hospitals and, looking after the babies and all that. And therefore, we need to have a package that looks after antenatal care for women. And what is really needed in our region is family planning, that one should have a child when one is ready for the child. One should be healthy enough to deliver a child, because an unhealthy mother delivers an unhealthy child, and that child has a very poor chance of survival. And this is not true just of Meghalaya. In fact, Assam had very high maternal and infant mortality rate. So these are issues we need to grapple with, because for instance, political empowerment. Women are nowhere near being politically empowered. You look at the tribal institutions, we have the traditional institutions, they don't have women holding any office. Women are not allowed to hold office in the traditional institutions. Whether you look at Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya, the tribal institutions in Assam or Tripura, women are nowhere to be found in these institutions, in these decision-making bodies. So how do we empower women then, if they cannot even be in an institution, in a decision-making status, where they can take decisions for their own health, their own economic uplift, for their own political engagements? So, coming up with a slogan is good, but we have to actually analyze and break these slogans up into very understandable bits, especially when we take these slogans to rural India, no?
Yes. Okay. Next question, ma'am, is that women's empowerment increases the chance of domestic violence. What is your view over this, ma'am?
Um, it's true to an extent, but it's also true that even without empowerment, women suffer domestic violence. And we are talking especially of a state like Meghalaya, where single women headed households are in a large majority. There are too many women who have been abandoned or divorced but who have no maintenance. There are women in very, very abusive relationships and they can't leave because they're dependent, you know. So, economic independence is extremely necessary for women to come out of these abusive relationships to be able to go and file an FIR when there is domestic violence, because all this time, you know, what we do is we protect ourselves from outside influences. We say domestic violence is a private matter, an internal matter of a family, but it is not. Everything personal is today political. That's what we
Yes.
learn in the women's movement. So, if there is domestic violence and if somebody is not reporting it, I think it is incumbent on women's groups, women NGOs to enable the person to report. And we are doing that quite a bit here in Meghalaya. There are people who are helping abused women to file their FIRs.
Thank you, ma'am. Very well said, ma'am. Next question to you is that what do you think for the welfare of the society, in particular, of the women in the region of matrilineal society? Please explain as it is. You are a great example for us.
A matrilineal society is not naturally empowering for women. That is, it's an unfair kind of assumption about women in Meghalaya being naturally empowered because they are in a matrilineal society. What is matrilineal? Matrilineal is only that children take the clan name of their mothers. Other than that, there is nothing extra that empowers us. Yes, the property also it passes through the youngest daughter. But the other realities are also that 76% of rural Meghalaya today is landless. That is according to the 2011 socio-economic caste census. So, with so much of landlessness, it definitely means that women don't own any land. And if you come here and if you just go to certain areas of Shillong, even, you will see how difficult life is for women in a matrilineal society. It's no joke, it's no, and you know, if you are divorced or if you are abandoned by your husband or your partner, the children live with the mother because we are a matrilineal society. So if there are three children, they will live with the mother. The mother has to fend for them. It is very difficult for a woman to get maintenance from a person who's not working in the formal sector. Even those working in the formal sector very often don't pay maintenance, you know, even when it is ruled by a court of law. So for women in a matrilineal society, I think it's a double whammy. We have to fight harder than women in patriarchal societies. At least in patriarchal societies, women know that they need to fight. In a matrilineal society, we have lived with the notion that everything is fine with our world. You know, people say women rule the world in Meghalaya and all that, but it's very wrong. All these wrong notions have to be debunked.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Next question is to use that. For our Northeastern female business entrepreneurs, what kind of skills or training do you think is required to face the challenges of already pre-men dominated markets?
There are certain activities that are very, they're very gendered. For instance, this activity of women setting up shops. It's so common, no, in Manipur, in Nagaland, in Meghalaya, in Assam to a certain extent. It's you will not see too many men in these shops in the Bara Bazaar, in the big markets. in the EMA market, it's an exclusively women's market. So we only need to strengthen them to ensure that they skill themselves to meet with the competition, because you cannot go on with the old way of trading, the old way of doing business. We need to constantly skill and train women to face exigencies like what's happening today with the coming of COVID, where so many people have been left without livelihoods. In fact, so many are saying that we have to choose between COVID and staying alive and pursuing our livelihoods. We can no longer stay at home. And the large majority of these people who are into livelihoods of buying and selling, I wish you could come to Meghalaya and see the large number of satellite markets that have developed during this COVID period, where people can have social distancing also, and nearly 98 or 99% of these stalls are manned by women. So it's so certain trades are very, very women related. Weaving, for instance, majority are women, and even in fruit processing, I think women have better skills with their hands and better understanding, because as it is, they are processing food every day in their kitchens. So what we need is to enhance their skills. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And next question is that as a social activist, what do you think about the role of NGOs or any other religious institutions for vocal for local, because many religions in our country do not allow women to come and participate in vocal for local? What do you say about that?
I don't think it's true of the religions practiced in this part of the world. Women are not so. Maybe some see in tribal societies, we either have Christianity or the indigenous faith, and none of these prevent us from taking part in all activities or any activity. I don't know about Islam, whether it prevents women from coming out and trading and getting involved in business activities. We don't have too many from that particular religion, perhaps in the region, so I won't be able to speak on their behalf. But as far as tribal women are concerned, they're all out there. They're all, they want to conquer the world. They want to do whatever men are doing, and there's no stopping them. And I don't think that there can be any religion to prevent you from earning a decent livelihood.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And another question to you, this is the last question to you. What is the role of education in making the woman of India Atmanirbharshil?
Very, very important. Very, very important, because women need to be educated, and not just education in reading, writing, arithmetic, the 3 R's. We need sex education, especially. We need skills building, we need life skills, for instance, how to live our lives outside the classroom. We need our education system has to be one where we can raise questions. It shouldn't be an education that only gives answers, because there are so many questions that remain unanswered after we have left school and college. Nobody has answered those questions for us. And, when we need to really live life, then we don't know how to go about it. So I think our whole education system also has to be repurposed to help us find our way better. Because I think, if you ask me, sex education must be a primary education in all institutions today. It's because we are so, I don't know what to say, but we are not very happy, we are not very comfortable discussing sex. And therefore we take all the wrong decisions in life. And about marriage, about relationships, these are important parts of our life, and This is a lifelong process, but we know so little about them. So that kind of education is what we need. And above all, we need to again restart this adult education programs for women who cannot, who cannot pursue their studies. They need this adult education program for basic kind of understanding of how to live their lives.
Thank you, ma'am, for your speech. Actually, women's empowerment is really, really very important because women are the backbone of the society and have always played a very positive role in shaping our society. And their women's empowerment is viable solution for integrating women for all kind of sustainable goals too. It's very, very important.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
See, the thing is that 50% of women, 50% of the population of any country is female.
Yes.
But we don't realize this. And that's why I've written a book called Waiting for an Equal World. Women are always waiting for equality, for equity. When will that time come? We cannot wait to be given that. We have to seize it. We have to take it. We have to take the opportunities.
Yes, yes, yes. Because now the female power becomes fully empowered, can make the nation totally self-reliant to a great extent.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
and,
yes.
and today's women are really redesigning the world. Frankly speaking, they are designing.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you, ma'am, for your very impactful speech. Very, very informative. We have come to know many things about Meghalaya too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. On behalf of Intellectual Forum, I extend a hearty vote of thanks to you, ma'am, because you have really blessed us with your presence amidst your busy schedule and delivered the precious
Yeah.
and speech. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. I'm sorry about the initial goof ups because I've come straight from my from my expedition to the rural areas, and I am sitting actually at a friend's place, so I may not have been able to get in at the first hour. So thank you very much for the patience of those who are looking on. Thank you. Thank you for this
Thank
opportunity also.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's our pleasure and delight. And our followers and all the participants, thank you so much once again for your valuable time for watching us. Hope to see you soon next time. Thank you, ma'am, once again. Thank you.
Thank you.